I'm the statewide Democratic nominee to be the next Chief Financial Officer of the state of Florida. It's a cabinet position and one of the highest positions in the state. So just about me, I went to the University of Michigan, go blue. I have bachelor's and master's degrees in aerospace engineering. After my time at Michigan, I joined the United States Navy. I spent 8 years as a nuclear submarine officer. I was actually commissioned in the Navy about 3 weeks before September 11th. I deployed on a fast attack submarine out of Pearl Harbor. Then I volunteered for a combat tour in Iraq with an Army Special Operations Unit during the height of the Second Gulf War. I was there from 2006 to 2007 and went on just over 200 combat missions. I was maybe 30 or so miles away when Saddam Hussein was executed. After my time in Iraq, I was a professor at the U.S. Naval Academy, which was a great job, taught electrical engineering. Lived abroad for a year in Australia, because, why not? And then I got a job in the Tampa area for a Fortune 500 company doing data and financial analytics and helping to manage about 5,000 people all over the world. Was never really involved in politics. And then in 2018, I started getting phone calls from all over my district. Somebody was running for my state house seat, the state house district, that was not right for the district. It was very bigoted. The last time they were in office, they used their office to target and actually hurt people. And there was no one willing to stand up to this person. And duty's always been important to me. My father volunteered for Vietnam in 1967, and that was a big influence when I volunteered to go to Iraq and join the military. And I've never really liked a bully, so I decided to go ahead and run against this person. It was a very difficult race that nobody thought we could win, but we ended up flipping our district by 12%. And I was able to win that race and was elected to the Florida legislature in 2018. A lot of the bills that I championed helped veterans, children with developmental disabilities, sexual assault victims. A lot of just really good bills that help struggling people in Florida. And then I wasn't planning on running for Chief Financial Officer, but very similar to 2018, people from all over the state this time started calling and asking if I would run. We needed a serious candidate for a serious position, and the state's in a major property insurance crisis right now. It's hurting every Floridian. It's not a Democratic issue. It's not a Republican issue. It's not an independent issue. It's an every Floridian and your family and your future and your bank accounts issue. And no one in the CFO's office seems to be willing to even talk about this problem, let alone start tackling it. So we need to take politics out of people's money and get a CFO who's ready to face these challenges.
Sure. So sticking with property insurance, so do you think the insurance crisis falls solely on the CFO's office or the state legislature? I mean, they had that special session and nothing happened to get anything off of the ground, and you have both Republicans and Democrats working in that legislative session. So who do you think bears the responsibility here?
I really do think a lot of this responsibility does lie with the Chief Financial Officer. He's the head of the Office of Insurance Regulation. A lot of some of the issues that we see in Florida come out of rules from the Office of Insurance Regulation, not necessarily the legislature. And being the head of the Office of Insurance Regulation, supposed to be the consumer insurance advocate, supposed to be standing up for people, the CFO wasn't involved in that special session. But he just abdicated his duty to the legislature. The legislature does need to fix some of the loopholes to come back and fix some of our legislative code, but they should be taking the lead from the CFO, since he's supposed to be the expert, supposed to be the one protecting Floridians to help them solve that problem. We've seen this crisis come down the road for over 5 years. They've had ample time to address this, and they've chosen not to. We need someone willing to do it.
Mm-hmm. And if you were elected, what would you do differently about the insurance issue?
So there's quite a few things. If you remember, it was 12, 14 years ago when sinkholes were a major problem in Florida, destroying our property insurance market. The legislature finally was able to get together and close those loopholes. We have more loopholes. Right now, about 9% of property insurance claims that happen in the United States happen in the state of Florida. But closer to 76% of the property insurance related litigation, those lawsuits, are all in Florida. We are an outlier. There are obviously loopholes that need to be closed that people are taking advantage of. Everything they're doing is completely legal. That's what we need to investigate. Another problem, we've had 6 property insurance companies go insolvent in Florida this year alone, not to mention several other companies in the past few years. Legally, the CFO's office, Department of Financial Services, is supposed to do a deep dive post-mortem, figure out why these insurance companies have gone insolvent, why they've gone belly up, why they've left the state and left people in the lurch. By the way, over 500,000 people in Florida right now have been left without proper insurance because of this. To date, the CFO's office has done none of these investigations. He doesn't know what the problem is. Obviously, again, it's something with our legislation, it's with our regulation, but he's not even willing to ask the question of what's going on, to find out the answer. When I was in the military, we did what's called RCA, or root cause analysis. You keep asking why 3, 4, 5 times until you can't ask why anymore. They haven't asked why once.
Okay. And like you said before, a lot of this does stem from fraud and litigation. It's not every attorney, but there's a few bad apples that are making it difficult on everybody and forcing everyone to pay higher insurance premiums. So, kind of going back to what you said, how do you prevent, as CFO, how would you prevent those lawyers from being able to do that? How would you stop those bad apples from coming in here and taking advantage of the system?
Well, again, we have to take a deep dive into this legislation. Again, we're an outlier in the country, as I mentioned, with over 3/4 of all property insurance litigation here in Florida. There are 49 other states doing this right, getting it done right. What are they doing that we are not? And there are some bad apples, but most of those consumer advocate attorneys and public adjusters, most of them, the vast majority, really are looking out for consumers. Even to, a year after Hurricane Michael, which today's the 4th anniversary of Hurricane Michael, by law, insurance companies are supposed to address claims within 90 days. A year after that hurricane, there were still over 18,000 claims here in the Panhandle that nobody was holding insurance companies accountable to. It's not just one-sided. It's not only a couple of bad apples, with lawyers taking advantage of consumers. There are problems on the insurance industry side as well. And so far, the current CFO's office has only been focused on those issues with consumers. It's not a one-sided problem. We need to completely revamp this. Actually, Republican State Senator Jeff Brandes out of Pinellas County has been very vocal on this topic, talking about how we need to fix property insurance, and nobody will listen to him either.
Okay, all right. And with everything that's happened with Hurricane Ian, when you see the images of the homes destroyed and the flooding, and you read the articles about, I think Citizens Insurance now is up to like over $2 billion in claims. What does that say to you about this crisis in the state of Florida?
Well, I live in Hillsborough County, so I was affected by Hurricane Ian. Nowhere nearly as bad as those south of me. But Citizens Property Insurance right now has just gone over 1 million policies. It's projected to be over 1.7 million policies by the end of 2023, and shortly after that, over 2 million. It's supposed to be the insurer of last resort. It was not designed to do this. And then by regulation, not by legislation, the CFO has ponied up Citizens Property Insurance as a backstop for private insurance companies if they go insolvent or something happens or they're unable to pay claims, especially out of Ian, which right now the estimates are between $20 and $50 billion that this is going to cost. Citizens Property Insurance, to make up those claims, can put a levy on every single insurance policy in the state of Florida, regardless if you have Citizens or not. So just by the wave of a pen, the CFO has bet your money and your future on his failure to address property insurance. Now, you got to make up your mind yourself. Are you willing to let politics get in the way to pony up your money for somebody else's failure? And I don't think you should.
Okay. And my last question for you, you kind of mentioned before, new to the political game, hadn't thought about running for office and people started reaching out. Same thing kind of happened again. Your opponent, pretty well recognized in the political arena. Do you think that has created some challenges for you in this race, or do you think that has given you more opportunities?
A little bit of both. So the Democratic Governors Association did a poll as part of the recruitment process to get me to run. The current CFO is a less than 7% name ID in the state. He's been in the legislature, he's been on the Public Service Commission, he's been the CFO, but he's been laying low. Personally, I think it's because once people realize, and I'm getting this sense because I've done events where I was the only Democrat in the room full of Republicans. By the end of the discussion, not only did they not know that the Office of Insurance Regulation falls under the CFO, but once we talked about it more and how much everybody in that room has seen their property insurance go up, our rates have on average doubled in Florida in the past 3 years alone, and we're triple the national average. Once people know where that responsibility lies, what office, they all understand that they need a new CFO. I've had every Republican I've talked to face on this issue, by the end of that conversation, they said that they're going to vote for me because they didn't realize where that fault lies. So I think he's laying low on purpose because he doesn't want people to know that his office is supposed to be helping them instead of hurting them.
Okay, anything else you'd like to add?
You know, really, like I said, for this particular race, I don't want you to vote with your party. I don't want you to vote with your heart. I want you to vote with your wallet. You know, we've let a lot of these things cloud our judgments, but there's really should be no greater motivator than wanting to set up your family and their future and provide for them and have the money to be able to do that. Saying that, like, it's time to vote with your wallet and take politics out of your money for this race.
Okay, perfect. Awesome.